Staff Sergeant Mike Torres pressed his back against the crumbling concrete wall, feeling the vibrations of incoming mortars shake dust from the abandoned building above him. His radio crackled with the voices of his six-man SEAL team, each reporting their ammunition status in clipped, professional tones that barely masked their growing concern. "We need air support now," Torres muttered into his headset, watching enemy muzzle flashes light up the ridge line 300 meters to their east. The Taliban fighters had them pinned in this valley for the past 2 hours, and their escape routes were systematically being cut off with each passing minute. The radio operator, Petty Officer First Class Jake Morrison, shook his head grimly as he adjusted his equipment. "Command says the sky is completely clear, Sergeant. No friendly aircraft in our sector for the next 4 hours. We are on our own out here." Before we continue this intense story, drop a comment and let us know what state you are watching from. Maybe you have witnessed similar moments of unexpected help arriving when all seemed lost. Torres felt his stomach tighten as another explosion sent shrapnel pinging off the wall beside his head. 4 hours was an eternity in their current situation. The enemy fire intensified as Torres counted his remaining magazines. 2 full clips and 1 partial. Around him, his team members were conducting their own grim inventory. Morrison had 3 magazines left, while Corpsman Danny Rodriguez was down to his sidearm after using most of his rifle ammunition during their initial contact. "We cannot stay here much longer," Torres announced through gritted teeth as another mortar round exploded 50 meters to their south, showering them with debris and the acrid smell of cordite. The Taliban fighters were methodically walking their fire closer to the building, testing their defenses and searching for weak points. Rodriguez crawled over to where Petty Officer Second Class Kevin Walsh was applying pressure to a shrapnel wound on his forearm. The medic worked quickly and efficiently, but Torres could see the concern in his eyes. Walsh would be able to fight, but his accuracy would be compromised. "Sergeant, we have movement on the north ridge," reported Lance Corporal Tommy Chun from his position at the window. "Looks like they're trying to flank us from that direction, too." Torres moved to Chin's position and peered through the shattered glass. At least 20 fighters were picking their way down the rocky slope, their AK-47s glinting in the harsh Afghan sunlight. The noose was tightening around them with methodical precision, and Torres knew they had maybe 30 minutes before their position became completely untenable. He keyed his radio again, hoping against hope for different news from command. Torres pressed the radio transmit button with desperate urgency. "Command, this is Bravo 7. We're taking heavy fire from multiple directions. Enemy forces are moving to flank our position from the north ridge. We need immediate air support or extraction." The response came back cold and matter-of-fact. "Bravo 7, negative on air support. Closest Apache is 4 hours out conducting operations in Sector 12. No fixed-wing assets available in your area. You are cleared to move to Extraction Point Charlie if able." "If able," Torres repeated bitterly, knowing full well that Extraction Point Charlie was 3 kilometers through open terrain, now crawling with enemy fighters. Morrison caught his eye and shook his head slowly, understanding the impossible nature of their situation. A sudden whistling sound made every man in the building freeze. "Incoming," Chin shouted, and the team pressed themselves against whatever cover they could find as a mortar round exploded directly outside their building, blowing out the remaining windows and filling the air with choking dust and debris. When the ringing in their ears subsided, Torres could hear the distinct sound of diesel engines approaching from the east. Enemy reinforcements were arriving, and from the sound of it, they had vehicles. He moved to what remained of the eastern window and felt his heart sink as he spotted 2 technical trucks mounted with heavy machine guns grinding up the valley road. The enemy had them completely surrounded now, and time was running out faster than their ammunition. The heavy machine guns on the technical trucks opened fire, their 50 caliber rounds punching through the concrete walls like they were made of cardboard. Torres and his team scrambled for better cover as chunks of masonry exploded around them, filling the air with deadly fragments. "We are about to be overrun," Torres shouted into his radio, hoping command might have found some miracle solution in the past 10 minutes. The response was the same automated message about no available air assets and instructions to attempt movement to Extraction Point Charlie. Rodriguez was now treating 2 wounded SEALs, with Petty Officer First Class Marcus Thompson taking shrapnel to his leg from the latest mortar barrage. The medic worked with practiced efficiency, but Torres could see they were running low on medical supplies as well as ammunition. Chin suddenly grabbed Torres by the shoulder and pointed toward the southern horizon. "Sergeant, you need to see this." Torres followed his gaze and spotted a small dark speck against the brilliant blue Afghan sky, moving with purpose toward their valley. "What the hell is that?" Morrison asked, squinting through his binoculars at the approaching aircraft. "It is too small to be a helicopter and too low to be a commercial flight." The object was definitely military, but its silhouette did not match any friendly aircraft they had been briefed about operating in their sector. The mysterious aircraft continued its steady approach, seemingly unaffected by the chaos unfolding in the valley below, as if it had some specific destination in mind. The approaching aircraft resolved into the distinctive twin-engine silhouette of an A-10 Thunderbolt, its straight wings and twin tail unmistakable even at distance. Torres felt a surge of hope before reality crashed back down on him. Command had been absolutely clear that no friendly aircraft were operating in their sector. "That cannot be one of ours," Morrison said, lowering his binoculars with confusion etched across his face. Command swore the sky was completely clear. Maybe it is some kind of mistake or they're lost. The A-10 continued its approach at low altitude, following the valley floor with the kind of terrain-hugging flight pattern that suggested intimate familiarity with the landscape. Torres watched as the aircraft banked slightly, adjusting its heading with precision that spoke of deliberate intent rather than random navigation. Enemy fighters on the ridge line had also spotted the aircraft and were frantically repositioning their weapons to engage the new threat. The technical trucks swung their heavy machine guns skyward, their crews shouting orders in Pashto as they prepared to defend against the mysterious warplane. Chun keyed his emergency radio frequency, broadcasting in the clear. "Unknown aircraft approaching grid coordinates 374-1. This is Ground Unit Bravo 7. Identify yourself and state your intentions. We are friendly forces taking heavy fire and in need of immediate assistance." The radio remained silent except for the crackling of static. The A-10 showed no deviation from its course, flying with the steady determination of a pilot who knew exactly where they were going and what they intended to do. The A-10 suddenly banked hard to the right and dropped even lower, skimming the valley floor with suicidal precision. Torres watched in amazement as the aircraft threaded between 2 rocky outcroppings with barely 10 feet of clearance on either side, demonstrating flying skills that bordered on supernatural. Without warning, the distinctive sound of the Ju-8 Avenger cannon erupted across the valley like the growl of an angry god. The 7-barreled rotary cannon unleashed its devastating 30-millimeter rounds at a rate of nearly 4,000 rounds per minute, walking a line of destruction directly through the enemy position on the eastern ridge. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Taliban fighters. Bodies and equipment disappeared in clouds of dust and debris as the depleted uranium rounds tore through their defensive positions with clinical precision. The technical trucks that had been terrorizing Torres and his team moments before erupted in flames as cannon rounds found their fuel tanks. "What the hell?" Morrison shouted over the deafening roar of the cannon fire. "How does that pilot know exactly where the enemy positions are located? We never gave them our coordinates or marked target locations." Torres stared in disbelief as the A-10 executed a perfect combat turn and lined up for another devastating gun run. The pilot was systematically destroying enemy positions with surgical accuracy, somehow knowing the precise location of every threat without any communication from the ground team below. The mysterious pilot was fighting their battle with an intimate knowledge of the battlefield that seemed impossible. The A-10 rolled inverted and dove toward the northern ridge, where the flanking force had been advancing on the SEAL position. Torres watched in awe as the pilot executed a perfect splits maneuver, pulling out of the dive at what seemed like the last possible second before impact with the rocky terrain. The cannon fire resumed with mechanical precision, each burst lasting exactly 2 seconds and placed with the accuracy of a surgeon's scalpel. Enemy fighters who had been confidently advancing through the rocks moments before were now scrambling for whatever cover they could find, their tactical advantage evaporating under the relentless assault from above. Chun lowered his rifle and stared at the aerial display unfolding before them. That pilot knows this valley better than we do, and we have been studying satellite photos for 3 weeks. Look how they are using those rock formations for cover during their attack runs. The mysterious A-10 disappeared behind a ridge line for several seconds before emerging in a completely different location, having used the terrain to mask their approach to the next target area. The pilot was demonstrating a level of battlefield awareness that suggested extensive reconnaissance or previous combat experience in this exact location. Rodriguez finished treating Thompson's wounds and looked up at the ongoing air show with professional appreciation. Whoever that is up there, they're keeping us alive. The enemy return fire has dropped to almost nothing. Torres nodded grimly, knowing that their mysterious savior was systematically dismantling the entire enemy force with ruthless efficiency and inexplicable tactical knowledge. The valley had transformed from a death trap into a graveyard for enemy forces in less than 10 minutes. Torres counted at least 15 separate target areas where the mysterious A-10 had delivered precise cannon fire, each strike eliminating threats with mechanical efficiency that spoke of extensive combat experience. Morrison attempted radio contact again on every frequency he could access. Unknown A-10, this is Bravo 7 ground team. Please identify yourself and acknowledge. We need to coordinate for safe extraction from this position. The radio remained silent, but the aircraft's actions spoke louder than any words. The pilot began a methodical sweep of the entire valley perimeter, hunting down the remaining enemy fighters who were now attempting to flee rather than fight. Each gun run was perfectly calculated to cut off escape routes while avoiding any risk to the friendly forces below. Walsh, despite his wounded arm, was providing overwatch through his scope when he suddenly went rigid with surprise. "Sergeant, you need to see this." The pilot just took out that sniper position on the far ridge, the one we could not even see from down here. Torres grabbed Walsh's rifle and peered through the high-powered scope toward the distant ridgeline. Sure enough, there was fresh cannon damage exactly where a well-concealed sniper nest would have provided perfect fields of fire over their planned extraction route. The mysterious pilot was not just fighting the current battle, but was clearing their path to safety with supernatural foresight. The A-10 made one final pass over the valley, flying low and slow in what appeared to be a damage assessment run. Torres could see the pilot's helmet through the cockpit canopy as the aircraft passed directly overhead, but the tinted visor revealed nothing about the identity of their mysterious savior. Chan was monitoring multiple radio frequencies when he suddenly held up his hand for silence. "Wait, I am getting something on the emergency channel." Static filled the air for several seconds before a clear, professional voice cut through the interference. "Ground Team Bravo 7, this is Warthog, One. Valley is clear of hostile forces. You are cleared for movement to Extraction Point Charlie. Recommend immediate departure as enemy reinforcements are approximately 30 minutes out from your location." The voice was unmistakably female, calm and controlled despite the intense combat operation she had just conducted. Torres felt his jaw drop as the implications hit him. A female pilot had just single-handedly destroyed an entire enemy force while flying a solo mission in supposedly clear airspace. Morrison grabbed the radio transmitter with shaking hands. "Warthog One, this is Bravo 7 Actual. Request identification and operational authority. Command told us no friendly aircraft were operating in this sector." There was a long pause before the response came back, and when it did, The pilot's voice carried a note of something that sounded almost like amusement. Bravo 7. Some missions do not appear on the daily flight schedule. Suggest you move now while the window is open. Torres made the decision that had kept him alive through 3 combat deployments. He trusted the mysterious pilot completely. Bravo 7 moving to extraction point Charlie now. All team members ambulatory and ready for movement. The team gathered their equipment with practiced efficiency. Rodriguez helping Thompson, who could walk despite his leg wound. As they prepared to leave their defensive position, Torres caught sight of the A-10 circling high above them like a protective guardian angel. Chun established communications with their extraction helicopter, which was still 40 minutes out from pickup point Charlie. The pilot's warning about incoming enemy reinforcements meant they would have a narrow window to reach safety, but the route she had cleared for them was completely free of hostile contact. As they moved through the valley, Torres marveled at the devastation the lone pilot had wreaked on what had been a significant enemy force. Destroyed vehicle positions, eliminated sniper nests, and scattered equipment told the story of a masterful tactical engagement conducted by someone with intimate knowledge of both the terrain and enemy capabilities. Morrison was monitoring the command frequency when he suddenly stopped walking and held up his hand. "Sergeant, you need to hear this. Command is going crazy trying to figure out who authorized air support in our sector. They're demanding identification from Warthog on A-10." The response came back on their tactical frequency, and the female pilot's voice carried a new edge of authority that made every man in the team stand a little straighter. "Command, this is Captain Sarah Martinez, call sign Ghost. Operating under classified reconnaissance authority Tango 77 Black." The radio went silent for several long seconds as command processed the implications of a classified black operations mission operating in their sector without their knowledge. Torres could imagine the frantic activity at headquarters as officers scrambled to verify Captain Martinez's credentials and operational authority. Ghost continued circling overhead as the SEAL team made rapid progress toward extraction point Charlie. Her voice came back on the tactical frequency with professional calm. "Bravo 7, be advised I have been conducting deep reconnaissance in this valley for the past 2 weeks. Enemy force strength was approximately 60 fighters with heavy weapons and vehicle support." Walsh looked up at the circling A-10 with newfound respect. 2 weeks of solo reconnaissance in enemy territory. No wonder she knew exactly where every hostile position was located. She had been watching and cataloging every enemy movement for 14 days. Morrison received confirmation from command that Captain Martinez's black operation status was verified and legitimate. Her mission classification was so sensitive that even Sector Command had not been briefed on her presence in the area. She had been operating completely alone, gathering intelligence on enemy capabilities and positions. Chun spotted their extraction helicopter approaching from the south as they reached the designated pickup zone. The area was completely secure thanks to Ghost's devastating attack, and the team prepared for rapid extraction with a sense of gratitude that ran deeper than words could express. Ghost's voice came through their headsets one final time as the helicopter touched down. "Bravo 7, mission complete. Safe travels home." As the helicopter lifted off with the rescued SEAL team aboard, Torres watched through the window as Ghost's A-10 executed one final victory roll before disappearing into the vast Afghan sky. The aircraft that had materialized from nowhere to save their lives was once again becoming a memory, but the impact of Captain Martinez's actions would remain with every man on that team forever. Back at base 3 hours later, Torres filed his after-action report with a sense of awe that still hadn't diminished. Command confirmed that Ghost had been operating the most classified reconnaissance mission in the theater, gathering intelligence that would prevent dozens of future ambushes and save countless American lives. Morrison approached Torres at the debriefing with a bottle of water and a grim smile. "You know what the craziest part is, Sergeant? Command says she has been doing solo missions like this for 6 months. Flying alone into enemy territory, gathering intel, and engaging targets of opportunity when necessary. The helicopter pilot who had extracted them stopped by their table with additional information that made their rescue even more remarkable. That A-10 pilot flew through a sandstorm to reach your position. Weather was reporting zero visibility for the past hour, but she navigated by instruments and memory to find you. Rodriguez shook his head in amazement. A female pilot conducting solo deep reconnaissance missions in enemy territory for months, flying through impossible weather conditions, and saving our lives without any backup or support. That is the definition of courage and skill. If this story moved you, drop a comment about what resonated most with you, or share if you have witnessed similar acts of unexpected heroism that changed everything in a critical moment.